Well, good morning, everybody. I can't tell you how excited I am to be back with you for our children's focus. It seems like it's been a very long time since I've had any time with you. I want to thank Elspeth so much for doing such a wonderful job with our summer vacation Bible school in August. I hope you guys enjoyed Compassion Camp as much as I did. I thought Elspeth did a fantastic job with it. I enjoyed doing the crafts and I especially loved the yoga. And you know what? I'm really excited that it was Elspeth who was leading the yoga sections. As much as fun as I had trying those poses, I'm really glad that she was the one who was teaching us how to do them and that I wasn't on video. But she did a great job, and so I just wanted to say thank you so much to her. Elspeth is back at school now, studying again, and well, she is home this weekend, so we might have a surprise visit from her. She might be able to pop in and say hello. But she, like you, has gotten back into the swing of things, and oh my goodness gracious, our school year looks so different than it did last year. I know you're all back at school, and I've seen a few pictures, so I know that some of you are back in the classroom in the traditional school buildings, and some of you are back in school but from your dining room tables or a special little corner that's been set up for you at home. And I just wanted to let you all know that we are thinking about all of you and keeping you in our prayers for a wonderful school year. We had a couple of weeks off between our vacation Bible school and coming back together for starting our children's focus, but it's time now for us to get back into our usual routine. And actually, it's going to be a little different in all honesty. We're getting ready to go back into the church buildings for a modified worship in October. But one of the big differences we're going to find is that we won't have a children's focus at that service. We will have a number of people, a limited number of people, who can come into the building to worship with us. But we're very constricted with the time that we can be gathered together. So we won't be having a children's focus as part of the Sunday service. So we're going to continue children's focus on a Saturday morning so that we get to spend more time together. So having said that, I do want to say a very special good morning and welcome back. Now, I have some names of children that I know that have been watching us, but if you've been watching us and I don't know your name, I would love to hear from you, just so that I can say good morning to you as well each Saturday. So today I'm saying good morning to Andre and Serenity. Thank you so much for the pictures that cataloged your care of the caterpillars and then the release of the beautiful monarch butterflies. I just love the fact that you gave them all names. It was wonderful. So welcome back. And Ella and Clara, welcome back as well. I hope you had a fabulous summer. And Ben, I did like the picture of you all set up for your homeschooling. That was wonderful. And Oliver and Foster, good morning. It's lovely to have you with us again. And Tristan and Morgan, I hope things are going really well for you. And William and Jacob, welcome back. And Jade, oh, Jade, I loved the picture of you at your home desk. I want to say good morning also to Elizabeth, and maybe even Henry's watching us. If you are, I hope you're having a great Saturday morning. So today we're going to be reading a story. Well, actually, I'm going to tell you the story from the Gospel of Matthew. I'll tell you exactly where to find it, and you can hear it or read it for yourselves from your Bible, or on Sunday morning it'll be read by Reverend Annie as well. So you can hear the word for word story either for yourself or on Sunday. But I do have here in front of me my Sparks Bible. I know a number of you have this one. I know a number of you really love the Action Bible as well, but that's still actually at my house. So as I'm moving things slowly back over to the office, I'll have that here as well. And then we're going to do our craft. And you can actually see them right here behind me. I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek of what we're going to be doing after our story and discussion. But let's listen to the story that's being told in this week's gospel. As I say, it comes from the Gospel of Matthew, and it's called very often the laborers in the vineyard. Vineyard, of course, is where grapes are grown. And so the laborers would be those workers who go in to harvest the fruit. Now, our craft is going to be, if you can't tell what they are, it's apples, because that's a fruit that we're harvesting at the moment. And I thought that might be kind of fun to make and actually keep, and maybe keep them for decorations for the upcoming fall season and Thanksgiving, which will be here before we know it. But let's talk about our gospel reading first. So Jesus is talking, he's teaching, he's talking to the disciples. And he said, "The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went early in the morning to the market square to find some laborers, some workers, to go into his vineyard and work. The day begins very early, but when he got there, there were several people waiting for work. And so he agreed to pay them the usual daily wage, and he sent them off into his vineyard. Now the landowner came back to the marketplace about 9 o'clock, and he saw more workers there waiting to find work. And so he also approached them and offered them work in his vineyard and agreed to pay them what was right. And so off they went to work that day in the fields. The landowner came back at 12 o'clock and at 3 o'clock into the market square to find more laborers. And at each instance, he had the same conversation with those workers, and he sent them into his vineyard. Now, if you think that's strange, wait till you hear this. At 5 o'clock in the evening, the landowner went back into the market square, and he saw some workers there who were just waiting around, hoping to find work. But it's 5 o'clock. It's soon going to be end of day. But the landowner went over to them and asked them why they were just standing there. And they said, "No one's hired us today." So the landowner took them into his vineyard, and they went to work. Now at the end of the day, which was probably about 6 o'clock, maybe a little later, the landowner went to see his manager, and he said, collect all of the workers up and give them their daily wage. But pay them all the same. And start by paying those who came in at 5 o'clock, and then the ones who've been there all day will be paid last. But they all get the same pay. Well, you can imagine those who started working at 5, who maybe worked an hour or two, were pretty excited about getting a whole day's wage. And I imagine the ones who came to work at 3 o'clock were excited, as were the ones who were hired in at 12 o'clock. Now the ones who started at 9, well, they were still probably pretty excited about getting a full day's wage, but can you imagine how those who started at the beginning of the day felt? Well, there was some grumbling. And they were wondering why they weren't given more money, because they'd worked the whole day. And they said to the landowner, "Why are we only getting just this one, same pay as everybody else? It's not fair." And so the landowner said, "Friends, am I doing any wrong to you? Am I doing any harm to you? Did you not agree at the beginning of the day that you would earn this usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and head on home." I imagine he's thinking, "You've had a long day already. I chose to give to those who are last the same as I gave to you. Like, am I not allowed to be generous? Or are you simply feeling envious because I am generous? And then he said something unusual. He said, so the last will be first, and the first will be last. This is the gospel of Christ. Isn't that an interesting story? If you could imagine yourself in that story, which of the workers would you like to be? Do you want to be the workers who got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and started work? Or do you think you might like to be the workers who ended up there at 5 o'clock and ended up having to just work an hour or two? I think we can understand the grumpiness of those who started work at 9 o'clock in the morning and saw that somebody who worked 1 hour or two compared to their 12 hours, well, I can understand them being a little grumpy about those getting as much money as they did. It's kind of human nature, isn't it? We value our time and think that our rewards should be tied to how much work we've put into something. This story is a story about God's generosity and about God providing us with exactly what it is that we need to get through that day. Sometimes it's really hard to not feel envious or angry that somebody gets something that we think they don't deserve. That's our idea of justice and our idea of fairness, isn't it? Oh, that's not fair. But God has an entirely different idea of what's fair. Have you ever watched the Willy Wonka movie, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? When I was a little girl, I watched it, and I think it's actually been remade. But it's this wonderful story about some children who won some prizes to go in and see this wonderful factory where all of these candies are made. And they were a very interesting group of people, children and parents who went through. And there was one scene where all of the children were given a candy. It was called an everlasting candy. And no matter how much you licked on it, sucked on it, it never got any smaller, right? It was like a never-ending gobstopper if you've ever had one of those, right? It doesn't matter how much you eat it, it's always going to be just as big. Which is a really cool idea for candy. But do you know that there was one of the children who complained because she thought her candy was a little bit smaller than somebody else in the group? It seemed kind of silly because those candies, whether they were big or small, were everlasting. They were never going to run out. It's a bit like today's story. You see, because God, the landowner, meets us where we are and provides for us what we need for that day. With God, we don't go hungry, because whether we show up at the marketplace looking for work at 9 o'clock or whether we end up there at 5 o'clock, God's going to meet us and God's going to give us what we need for that day. I know it can be a bit of a hard lesson, especially if you're the one who's been working all day long. But I think what God is asking us to be here is generous. To not compare ourselves to anyone else, not to look at their journey or their, what they've received, but to be very, very thankful for what it is that God has provided us with. And what God provides us with is enough food and nourishment for that day. And then when we start a new day, the promise is that God will see us through that one as well. Isn't that a cool story? It's a hard one. I have to admit, that's a tough lesson for us all to learn. But if we can take that kind of generosity into our hearts, then I think we will feel pretty good. And I think that it will open our hearts and our minds to the wonderful generosity that God pours over all of us. Now, I told you we would do a bit of a craft today. So let me show you up close what I have here, and then I'll show you how to make your own. So what I have are some lovely little apples. I have some extra ones down here, actually. I had so much fun making these that I made lots of them. So there's a little, maybe this is like a Granny Smith apple. Isn't that cute? And then I have, oh, look at this. I have a Golden Delicious apple. You see that? Yeah. And up here, let me show you my little apple. Maybe that's like our Red Delicious or Macintosh, or maybe even what's one of the other ones called? Gala. That's our household's favorite. So these are ever so easy to make, and they're ever so cute. What I'm hoping is that when you make these, it reminds you about the abundance of the harvest. And while we know there's a lot of work to be done, to remember that God always gives us what we need, whether that be food or drink or help. You see, those workers who started in the morning probably didn't have enough help, and they were having to really race. But during the day, God provided them as well with what they needed, which was extra help to get the work done. So we're going to make some little apples to remind us about the abundance of the harvest and the abundance of God's help. So we're going to take very simple tools today. I have here a pipe cleaner. You can use brown or black, and well, you can use any color you like, really. And then we're going to have a green pipe cleaner, because that's going to help us to make a little bit some leaves on our apples. And we're going to need some yarn. So I have some yellow yarn here. All right, now I probably have about, if I do that, I probably have about 10 feet of yarn. But see what you have available, all right? And if you have orange yarn, you could even make pumpkins. What I'm going to do is keep my little apples, and they're going to be part of our Thanksgiving decorations for our Thanksgiving dinner coming up next month. So I've cut my pipe cleaner, my long one, into a smaller piece, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yarn, and I'm just going to tie the end of it securely around that piece of pipe cleaner. And I'm going to try and get it sort of pretty close to the center, all right? So I'm going to do that. So that's pretty close to the center of my pipe cleaner. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay my pipe cleaner on my finger like that, and then I'm just going to start wrapping the yarn around my finger, right? And so we're just going to wrap. We're going to try and keep that sort of, can you see? Just in the center. What we're doing is making a lovely round, you got it, apple shape. So now, when we come to the end, I'm just going to tuck that in so that doesn't unravel. All right. And then I'm going to take the two ends of my pipe cleaner, and I'm going to pull them a little tight. Right? So I'm going to get a good hold of my pipe cleaner, and then I'm just going to slip my finger out. And so what you can see now is my little bundle of yarn and my pipe cleaner, and I'm going to pull it nice and tight, and I'm going to give it a single twist, right? One single twist like that, just so it's holding nice and firm. And then I'm going to take my green piece of pipe cleaner and I'm going to, fit that in there, right? Tuck it at the bottom, and then I'm going to continue to twist the brown pipe cleaner so it comes together to make the stalk of our apple. And then I'm just going to twist our little green pieces to make them look like some little leaves. And there you have it. You have a beautiful little golden delicious apple. Isn't that fun? So that's our craft for today, and we've had our story and little talk. I'm just going to put this up here. There we go. I'm actually going to put those at all of the placemats at my Thanksgiving dinner, so I think I may have a few more that I have to make up. Why don't we say the Lord's Prayer together before we say goodbye? All right? So, gathering our prayers and our praises into one, let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. It was lovely to spend a little bit of time with you today, to welcome you back to our Children's Focus, and to remind you of God's extraordinary love for you and the generosity in which He spreads that love all around. So, stay well, stay safe, wear your masks, wash your hands, and we'll see you on Sunday, either on Facebook Live or as a video later in the day, and definitely we'll see you next Saturday. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.